Michelle, how many participants did you have or viewers did you have in yesterday's presentation?
I think we had about 85 yesterday.
Okay.
People are joining us now, so we'll see shortly. All right, good day, everyone. My name is Michelle Tomlinson, and I am so excited to welcome you here to Evolutionary and Revolutionary Changes in Supervision. This is such a big topic, and I have such an amazing and experienced panel that we decided to shake things up a bit and create a blended presentation and panel for you. I will give a short introduction for each group, and they will present you with just a few slides to share with you their backgrounds and give you insight into their unique perspectives. Then we'll jump right into the panel discussion with the whole crew. Quick reminder, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to type in your questions, and we'll add those to our list of questions at the end. Thank you. First up is Wes Huddleston, Vice President of Business Development at Scram Systems, the world's leader in evidence-based hardware, software, and mobile app technologies for the criminal justice system. He also serves on the advisory board of the Center for Alcohol Use and Mental Health at Harvard University Medical School. From 2006 to 2015, just prior to joining Scram Systems, he served as the CEO for the National Association of Drug Court Professionals.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, sorry.
Is that me?
Sorry, not done yet. Just paused.
Okay, Michelle.
Thanks. From 1998 to 2006, he was Deputy Director, and Executive Director of NADCP's National Drug Court Institute, which he co-founded in 1998 with then CEO Judge Jeff Tober. As CEO, Wes subsequently created and served as the Executive Director of the other three divisions of NADCP, the National Center for DWI Courts, Justice for Vets, and Global Center for Drug Treatment Courts. West is regarded as a pioneer in problem-solving courts, alternative sentencing, and evidence-based community corrections. Please start us off, Wes.
Thank you, Michelle. Well, good morning, everyone. Just as a way of very, very quick introduction, I've spent my entire career both as a clinician working in community corrections, whether it was as a probation officer or a counselor behind the bars, Tennessee Department of Corrections. And then you heard all of my, 20 plus years of experience in treatment courts worldwide. And, what I have witnessed in my 31 years of working in the system of justice is that there are principles that have better outcomes. And we all know them as evidence-based practices or core correctional practices. The truth about evidence-based practices and or core correctional practices is that they are They are hard to deploy. They are hard to measure whether they actually happen. And officers in community corrections oftentimes do not have the proper data that they need in order to deploy evidence-based practices with their clients. And so I've dedicated the last 6 years of my life after leaving the National Association of Drug Court Professionals to solve this pain of training and praying, and to move toward a support system and a decision support engine within a software solution that we invented and launched that supports evidence-based practices, guides an officer through how to respond to client behavior, and then provides very, very powerful analytics. Next slide. And so the idea here is that a software solution that supports evidence-based practices and core correctional practices should automate client data for the officer, instead of the officer having to spend 50% of their time on the telephone or going to disparate systems trying to find out how their client is doing, and then manually entering that into a system that can't think or can't analyze or can't synthesize. Then with today's technology, decision support engines are a very, very powerful way to guide an officer through how to respond to client behavior. And then finally, if the officer has good data and the supervisor has the visibility and administration has visibility into what's happening across caseloads, what's happening in that dark data around treatment services, for example, then they can make those continuous improvements through analytics. Last slide. So the notion is let's automate the proper data and the right data. We figured out how to do that. That will lead to better efficiency, saving staff a ton of time so that they can actually spend more time in the field, more time face-to-face with their officers, more time safe from COVID interactions, and allow for the measurement of evidence-based practices through decision-making. That's going to lead to better client outcomes. So I look forward to being a part of this panel. Thank you.
Thanks, Wes. Next up, we have Crystal Pulley and Ben Wright, who are co-presenting. So Crystal Pulley is Regional Administrator, Western Region Community Corrections, Virginia Department of Corrections. Crystal Pulley is currently employed by the Virginia Department of Corrections as the Regional Administrator for Community Corrections in the Western Region. This includes 14 probation and parole districts, 7 sub-offices, and 3 CCAP facilities. Her experience started with 2 years as a probation and parole officer in District 37, Rocky Mount. In 2003, she transferred to District 15, Roanoke. And in 2008, she became a sex offender supervision specialist. And in September 2010, she became deputy chief in District 15. In 2013, Ms. Pulley was promoted to chief probation and parole officer in District 20 in Bedford. And in November 2014, Ms. Pulley was promoted to chief probation and parole officer in District 13, Lynchburg. In 2017, she was promoted to her current role of regional administrator. Ms. Pulley is also a 2008 graduate of the American Correctional Association Leadership and Development Program, LEAD. Ms. Pulley earned her bachelor's degree in social work from Ferrum College. Ben Wright currently serves as the Vice President of Customer Success at Abilis Solutions. Prior to assuming this role, Mr. Wright worked for 18 years with the Virginia Department of Corrections. Ben served as a warden at 2 facilities during his tenure with VADOC. Additionally, Mr. Wright served as the team lead with the implementation of Chorus OMS for the institutions in Virginia DOC. After his tenure with VADOC, Mr. Wright served as an instructor with the Department of Criminal Justice at Radford University for 5 years. Ben earned his bachelor's degree in psychology from Longwood College and his master's degree in criminal justice from Longwood University. Ben has a graduate certificate in public administration from Longwood University as well. Here you go, guys.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate being afforded the opportunity to be here with you today. I hope everyone is doing well. As you know, community supervision is a huge job, and currently in Virginia, just to give you a summary, we have 66,670 probationers in our 43 districts, and also our 6 community corrections alternative programs. Currently for us, it's taking about 2 to 3 years for our probation officers to become proficient, which, as you know, is a good reason for us to embrace technology and make sure that we're working efficiently and getting the most bang for our buck. So some of our tools that we'll talk about are Virginia Chorus, our Compass Risk Assessment, the Administrative Response Matrix, or ARM, our other interventions, and also Shadow View, a technology tool that we've greatly utilized during the pandemic. Next slide, please.
All right, good morning,
I'm going to turn this
everybody.
over to
Thanks, Crystal. So good morning, everybody. I want to talk a little bit about Virginia Chorus. So in 2008, Virginia implemented Virginia Chorus, which is a comprehensive offender management system that's purpose-built for corrections. This created a unified and integrated system for prisons and district offices in Virginia, which enabled on-demand access to information across all operations of the Virginia Department of Corrections, with thousands of concurrent users and over 4.5 million transactions daily within the OMS. Primarily, Virginia Chorus eliminated some inefficient business practices, and it also led to the retirement of numerous legacy systems in Virginia. It is supported by a long-term evergreen commitment to evolve with agency and market needs. Later on in Virginia, we introduced the Virginia Chorus mobile app to enhance efficiency for staff to complete tasks while on the go, whether that be by laptop, smartphone, or tablet. So next, Crystal.
Thank you. So as Chorus was implemented in the Virginia Department of Corrections, the other wonderful thing that happened was we were able to introduce our risk need assessment in Chorus and be able to create some automated tools based upon that. So what we quickly found was we had a large group of low risk cases that we were over supervising. So we were actually able to move about 10,000 of our cases to a unit where they are only monitored through a voice verification system. So that greatly reduced the workload for our officers. We still are able to target our responses for our medium and high risk cases, as you see our numbers here on the slide, and are really able to focus that attention on the cases that need the supervision. The officers are able to create their case plans once and also do that in our Chorus system based upon our risk need assessment, which is all integrated. Next slide, please. All right, the Administrative Response Matrix, or ARM, it is our structured decision-making tool which promotes the use of our graduated sanctions and interventions based on the risk and severity of the behavior. So the system automatically knows, because of all of our data that's been inputted, what risk level that probationer has been placed in. And then the officer is able to then cite what the violation is for that particular probationer. And the tool gives them a list of sanctions and incentives that are possible for that individual, which is removing the implicit bias in their decision making. And as Wes mentioned earlier, we're also able to make sure that we're focusing the attention on those situations and make sure that we're managing our time accordingly. So it's been a wonderful tool. We currently have a 13% technical violation rate for state responsible sentences as of fiscal year 2018. We are right now, currently it's a pilot program, and we have 10 sites but we were afforded a grant, and we do have the plans to move forward with the administrative response matrix statewide and are actively working through that. Next slide, please. So back, as I was saying, to our targeted interventions, again, through the use of our risk assessment tool and Chorus, we have been able to focus on individualized case plans, which are also done in our system and can be updated accordingly. We require our case plans from our officers to be updated every 6 months or every 12 months, depending on the needs of the case. We're able to focus on the criminogenic needs of each of our probationers, and they are outlined for everyone to see, so that information passing is seamless. We're able to use our EPIC skills and focus on training our staff to make sure that they're providing the best services possible, and make sure that our programs are evidence-based and also give us the fidelity that we need with all of these tools that we've implemented in Virginia. Next slide. And this was what I was speaking about earlier, our Shadow View and voice verification biometrics unit. Shadow View has allowed us to, during the pandemic, everyone knows, we were able to go into the probationers' homes virtually. It's basically a safe FaceTime, and the officer is able to document their notes immediately after leaving in the same app. While having this virtual visit with the probationer. The app is also able to locate that probationer in the moment of time when they're talking to them, so that they can verify they are where they say they are at that point. They can walk them around the house, verify the home visit. Of course, this doesn't replace our GPS that we are using. And we are also, as I said, assigning our low-risk cases to the voice verification biometrics unit so that the officers are able to target those responses. All right, next slide.
All right, thanks, Crystal and Ben.
Thank you.
Now we have Pierre Blondeau. He's co-founder and CEO of Upstream, a Belgian company developing and selling electronic offender monitoring systems based on an offender smartwatch. Before founding Upstream, Pierre worked as a freelance in technology and security and held various sales, marketing, business development, and management positions in security and high technology companies. Pierre holds a, Pierre holds a Master of Science in Computer Engineering, as well as a university certificate in philosophy from the Catholic University of Louvain, Belgium. Jump in, Pierre.
Yeah, so thank you, Michelle, for this kind introduction. So I think, yeah, you can move to the next slide. Okay, so yeah, as Michelle said, and as I'm sure you can hear, I'm not from US, I'm from Belgium. So Belgium is a fairly small country located in Western Europe, somewhere between France, Germany, UK, and the Netherlands. And we are mostly known for three things in Belgium. Next one, which is our Belgian chocolate. Next one, the beers, and next one, our wonderful soccer team, which made it to the World Championship 3 years ago. And everybody is very excited about this now, because as of tomorrow, the European Championship is going to start, and we are really hoping the best for our country. Okay, now back to business. We have actually started the idea of developing an electronic monitoring system based on a smartwatch after some discussion with government agencies, and they told us at that time that some of the solution on the market was a bit too much focused on security and not enough on rehabilitation and compliance, while the objective as a government agency was to rehabilitate people, to take criminals and make good citizens out of them. Of course, citizen security is very important, but that was not all about that. Next one. And another thing that was brought to us is that some of the solutions on the market had a little bit too much stigma, and that was a problem for the offenders, because they were feeling watched by other people, clearly identified as offenders, and that was perceived as being an obstacle to their rehabilitation. Next one. So what's an offender smartwatch? In a few words, and I'm not going to go through all this, you can see that as a device that has similar feature as a one-piece GPS ankle monitor, meaning that you have, of course, a GPS receiver inside to locate the participants. You have a wireless link to an optional beacon. You have some tampering detection, like if the strap is cut, if they open the case, that type of things. You have also the possibility to detect violation, like being in an exclusion zone, so at a place where they are not supposed to be, not coming back home on time, and so on. And you have also a SIM card in it, meaning that this is a device that is able to communicate on its own and that does not need the participant to have a smartphone with him or any handheld device or anything like that. That's a really autonomous device. But okay, most of the ankle bracelets have that, but what makes the difference, next one, is that on a smartwatch, you've got a screen and you've got some buttons, and that allows you to communicate and to share information with the participants. And it can be very simple things like what is the schedule for the next day, reminders, so if they need to show up at the court hearings or if they need to go and see the probation officer, the watch is going to remind them. There's also some automated response feature to violation, meaning that if they go to forbidden place, the watch will vibrate within seconds to let them know and give them the chance to comply again. You can also, in most of the systems, send custom text messages from the platform directly to the watch, and the participant has to acknowledge the message so that you know when it has been read. And then you can do many things like positive reinforcement, gamification, what have you. And actually, the first part of this feature is really about ensuring compliance, making sure that the participant is going to go from the beginning to the end of the program by following the rules. And the second one, thank you, is about motivating the participants to comply. And so the smartwatch is mostly about treating. Next one, about the fact that there is no stigma. Next one, about compliance, and finally, about security, of course, because this is a very important aspect of electronic monitoring. Next one. So about security, I wanted to insist a little bit on that because I have the feeling that some people I've been talking to before have the impression that an offender smartwatch is like you buy a commercial smartwatch, an Apple Watch or something like that, and then you put an app on it and you get an offender smartwatch. That's absolutely not what it is about. What we call an offender smartwatch is a device that has been developed specifically for the offender market, which has enhanced tampering detection like strap cut detection based on fiber optics, like in most ankle bracelets, detecting if the strap is full, meaning a tampering attempt, being able to detect if the watch is slipped off the hand, or if the case is open, that type of things. And it's also, from the offender's point of view, a very closed system. That's not something that you can connect to any device. As a participant, you cannot change settings, you cannot install new apps or anything like that. It's all 100% government control or vendor control if it's in full service. So it's a very secure and very closed system that the participant has just no grip on. Next one. And so, yeah, my last point is that I'm not here to tell you that offender smartwatch is the solutions to all problems in the world. If you look at the spectrum of possible devices to monitor offenders, you have at the bottom a RF device, alcohol monitoring device, and some other device. But if you focus specifically on GPS-enabled device, you can see at the left side that on the high risk side, GPS ankle bracelets are probably the thing to go for. These devices are very strong, very difficult to break, and so on. They have some stigma attached to them, but for sex offender or high risk offender, they're probably the best solution. At the other side, some people don't necessarily need a device securely fitted on them, so they can live with a smartphone app because they don't pose any particular threat to the community, and at the same time they can enjoy a very rich communication features. But somewhere in the middle, you have some people that need to have a securely fitted device on them because you want to be sure all the time of where they are, what they do, but maybe are more sensible to stigma and also would be more appropriate to guide them and to help them to be compliant than just being more secure or security-minded model. And we believe that for these guys, between the low to medium risk offenders, this is really the sweet spot for a smartwatch, and this is where it finds its place. And that's it for today.
Thank you, Pierre. All right, next up we have Steve Payne, Director of Research and Development, Marquee Software. Steve spent 30 years with one foot in the university and one foot in the real IT world. He served on the faculty of Florida A&M University and later at Florida State University. During his 30 years in the academia, he taught undergraduate and graduate courses in programming, database, telecommunications, security, and knowledge management. He also created and sold 2 IT companies. In 2000, Steve started consulting with Marquee Software Development, working on their offender management system. When he retired from FSU in 2012, he extended to full-time at Marquee Software, where he is the Director of Research and Development. Steve has 3 degrees from Florida State University. After an undergraduate in economics, he completed a master's degree and PhD in statistics and research design. Steve's passion is solving real-world problems with off-the-shelf technologies. Take it away, Steve. Steve, I think you're muted.
I am, yeah, not anymore. Okay, so I'm going to keep this very simple. I've enjoyed the previous presentations, and I want to kind of tack onto them. We've looked at using techniques, tools that analyze data and make predictions. And what I want to focus on is how do we collect that data? Without good data, none of these tools work. So I want to look at, cost-effective solutions that reduce recidivism through mobile devices. So I'm going to just focus on that one part. I'm going to talk about 3 of these. I'm going to talk about a mobile application for officers or agents in a very general way, not just specific to our application. A mobile application for parolees or probationers, and a text messaging module that's integrated within an OMS. And I think all 3 of these are very important no matter what vendor you have. But if you don't have these, then you're behind and you're getting further behind every day. So next slide. So first of all, what do you need to look for in an application that your officers or agents use? So this is an application that's installed on an officer's phone. It needs to have their complete caseload information stored in their phone. So this includes all the photos, all the scars and marks, all the addresses, all the phone numbers. Everything in your OMS needs to be pulled into your phone so your officer has the complete caseload information. It's used as a data acquisition tool in the field. You need to be able to collect new addresses, phone numbers, employment data, automobile information, photos, scars, marks, documents that can be signed by the client with their finger, supervision, contact data. It is the tool that the officer will use to capture all the data and then to sync it into the OMS. The officer safety is enhanced by knowing their location, but many states don't allow, like California wouldn't allow something like this because their parole probation officers, their agents are all unionized, so they wouldn't allow location tracking. But so when is it appropriate? When do you need to capture location? Maybe only when they enter into situations that are unsafe, but it needs to be there as an option. The application needs to be tightly integrated with your OMS because you're syncing all of the caseload data from the OMS into the smartphone, and it needs to be able to securely sync that data back into the OMS. And you need a secure way of doing that that's all CJIS compliant. CJIS compliance in a mobile device is a challenge, but it can be done. And so you need to make sure when you're looking for a solution that it follows these rules. Next slide. Second mobile application is for the client. We're trying to enhance their probability of successful reentry and reducing their recidivism. First of all, we need to know that it's the right person that has the application installed in their phone. And every time we collect data from them, we need to know it's the right person. So we need multi-factor authentication. And I would suggest that we need some type of biometrics. And they need to be live biometrics so that they can't be spoofed. You need to be able to do remote enrollment. We found that out during COVID. We had to change our applications because the clients had to come into the office to get the application installed, and we found that that wasn't appropriate. So we had to come up with a secure remote enrollment. All of the system needs to be configurable so that you can easily change the types of questions that you want the client to answer. It needs to also be a data acquisition tool where the clients can enter new phone numbers, new employment data, new automobile data, things like that, that can be synced back in with your OMS. It needs to provide the client local treatment options. So it knows where they are because of where their phone is or where their address is. So to have a list of treatment and programs that are close and to be able to link them to those programs. It also needs to be tightly integrated with your OMS. This is a tremendous challenge when you're trying to connect tens of thousands of mobile devices to a secure CGIS OMS. So we probably will get into that in the question and answers. Next slide. This is one of my passions, the text messaging. Okay, how do we survive today? We do it through text messages. Research shows that 90% of text messages are read within 90 seconds. That's much better than emails or even phone calls. So this is the way that you communicate if you want to communicate in a quick way. We found through research that we've been able to reduce missed appointments by almost 50% just by sending a simple reminder the day before. The same thing that our dentist and doctor does for us, we should give our clients the same option. We've been able to increase collection fee payments and the speed at which fees are paid by sending reminder messages. We've been able to engage clients through positive reinforcement. As an example, great job, 3 positive or 3 negative drug tests in a row, or super, your fees are up to date this month, things like that. We also use the text message as part of our 2-factor authentication. Oftentimes when you're using 2-factor authentication, your phone receives a code that you have to type in, so you know that they have that phone. All of the text messaging is completely threaded, so you don't have an officer texting a client and losing that information about those text messages. You want it integrated so that every text message to or from is recorded in your OMS. And I think that's it.
All right, excellent. Let's jump in. Stop the share here and get y'all up. All right, on screen. We have an extra participant here, and I'm not really quite sure how that works.
I have an imposter, it looks like.
Yeah, let me fix this. All right, looks good now. All right, if everybody wants to unmute themselves. So let's jump in. This first question, I'm going to start off with West. What are the main data-related pain points supervision officers still face today?
Well, I think Steve mentioned it, Crystal mentioned it. Data is unstructured. It's in case notes. It's not data at all. And smart systems can't analyze unstructured data. And so, you know, for a system like ours called Nexus, we've invented ways to get dark data from outside treatment providers or in-house treatment providers that save officers a lot of time, as well as provide the quality of data needed that could actually be analyzed. So whether the client showed up or not is important, whether they're in crisis or not, whether their sobriety date has changed or not, whether they are medically compliant. You know, there are just there's a ton of data points that officers need on a real-time basis in order to make decisions that are evidence-based. And without that data, as Steve said, their job is impossible. So the biggest pain point is data is very difficult to get in real time when it matters. And it needs to be structured data in order for a system like Nexus or like it sounds like some of these other systems to actually be able to make sense of it and analyze it.
All right. Anybody else want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I'm going to share something that's going to sound very simplistic, but that I think is very real. I think two pieces of data that are required, I call them the gold standard of communication with clients, is there's a correct cell phone number and a correct residential address. And you need a way to manage these. It sounds simple, but all of you know that many of your phone numbers and addresses are not correct. And this is the way that we communicate and find people. So those are my two data-related pain points, is how do we keep those up to date?
Got it. Thank you. My next, go ahead.
I just want to add, going back to our keynote speaker, I think our focus a lot of time is on offender communication, but also our focus needs to be on taking care of our staff. And that sometimes can be a pain point. I think it's great that, we have all of these options of mobility and things of that nature, but we also have to remember that our officers have to disconnect at some point. So as we come up with solutions for enhanced communication, we also have to come up with ways to make sure that our officers are, taking care of themselves and not staying connected all the time when their clients are always connected as well. So I just, wanted to add that also.
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in on that. I absolutely agree. And if data from if client level data is not automated, then officers are spending 50% of their time in front of their screen just typing information in to a case management system. And it is a massive strain on the officer. It makes the officer ineffective at the end of the day because they don't have the time to do other things that matter in a case. We have to, we just have to figure out ways, and I believe we have, but I think we have to figure out ways to get the officer the data that they need and free them up from doing all that administrative work, and free them up to have the time to engage their clients and do what matters.
All right. Anyone else want to jump in on there? Okay, this one I'm going to start off with Steve. Have there been any studies related to the impact on public safety when face-to-face visits are replaced with remote check-ins?
I have not seen any. These studies are very difficult. I know that Wes talked about doing, making decisions related to studies, and lots of times there's just no data there. The technology is advancing faster than the studies can be done. Most of the studies done by researchers at universities are not answering the questions that are being asked by practitioners. So I do not see data here. I know we're starting studies in Arkansas and Kentucky trying to answer this question. Is public safety, are we is it reduced when we don't do face-to-face, when we go kind of virtual supervision? What are we losing in doing that? If any of you are interested in participating in that kind of research, I would love to work with you and make you part of what we're trying to do here. But I don't see anything, and I think there's, there needs to be some, and we're starting to work on that.
I'd like to follow that, because I do think that from a practitioner perspective for us, I can speak to what we've seen in the field. And one of the things I'm most excited about is with virtual treatment, where we have had a significant increase in our participation, and also our probationers being very forthcoming, particularly sex offender treatment and substance use disorder treatment, where they are really participating. They're able to walk out of their jobs, get in their car, get online for group, and then go back in their jobs. And there's no transportation excuses. So I can say in many ways, I think we've had an increase in productivity and an increase in being connected with our probationers. I think that it's offered a little bit of a relief to our staff, because they can see more people during the day, and there's not the travel time and the challenges that come with it. So while I know that that's also important for us to be out in the field, I do think that we've seen a lot of great things that I can say firsthand have really benefited us by embracing a lot of this technology.
And I agree totally with that. And I agree that we have lots of anecdotal information and even some numbers we can point to. I'm actually focused on randomized control trial research that can lead to definitive results. And that's what I'm saying is lacking.
All right. Thank you. And Crystal, that led directly into my next question, which was for you, which is, how has technology improved the daily life for both officers and the supervised community this past year?
Well, and I will say that I think that I answered most of that already without realizing, but so the other piece is just by having the automated systems where the officers are spending less time just in front of the computer, as West was talking about. That's one of the biggest concerns that we heard from our staff when we switched to our automated management system, was that, am I going to just be a data entry specialist? And so everything that we have done to make it easier for the officer has had a big impact. So the mobile app, as Wes was talking about with us for Chorus, was tremendous, because the officers would get in their car, they would enter their log notes on their phone, they could look up the address and telephone information on their cell phones or tablets, without even having to do anything, and then move on with their day. So the technology increase has really helped the staff with just being more efficient and focusing on the probationers with high needs and being able to move quicker through the day.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else want to jump in on that? Okay, my next question is going to start off with Pierre. With all of this new technology, is there a risk of swinging the pendulum over too far into machine-dominated supervision systems?
Well, I think it's a good question, and this is something we face from time to time with people that may be a little bit old school and that are afraid of technology. But I think that technology, and it's also the subject that has been just discussed before, like about data management and so on, and data entry, is there to help people. And giving information about location, about behavior of people, even putting in place some artificial intelligence mechanisms that can point the attention of probation officer or monitoring officers to some potentially problematic situation is very good, because it saves time, it's much more efficient, and also technology, when it comes to computing data, has the power to do things that humans just can't do, because it's too many data, it's too complex for them, they just wouldn't have time. You can't do that with your human brain. So I think all this is good. But when it comes down to making decisions, then of course it needs to be something that a human has to make, because we're dealing with human and machine are not able to do that. It's not the right thing to do. They can detect some problems, but then it is to be reported to humans and they need to decide. We have heard in the past of some systems that were aiming at taking physiological measurement on the participants and be able to determine whether they are stressed, they are happy, they are angry, they have something like that. I'm not too much into that because I think it goes too far, it's too intrusive. It's absolutely not needed in a rehabilitation journey. But gathering info, presenting them the right way to officers, probationer, and then let them decide what to do, I think that's really the way to go.
Thank you. Who else wants to jump in on that?
I'll just jump in. I think, I mean, there is concern, obviously. We've talked about some of the benefits of technology and how we can enhance communication. But, you know, to me, I think the relationship that's developed between officers and their clients, you know, has to start in person. And, you know, developing a relationship, you know, resolves a lot of issues. You know, I come primarily from a prison background, but you know, I can say, you know, when I walk around in the facility and things of that nature, those face-to-face interactions are so beneficial for both staff and offenders. You know, if offenders knew I was going to walk around every day and be available to talk to, I think that was a huge benefit. And you know, I do get concerned sometimes that we may lose some of that. So I think it's a balance. You know, you have to maintain a balance between that in-person communication and using these tools to enhance that. So yeah, I think establishing those relationships is first and foremost, training our staff how to communicate effectively through many of the things that Wes mentioned in his presentation. Motivational interviewing and things of that nature is imperative that we motivate our offenders, you know, through applications as well as in person.
Absolutely. Yep. Then let me just check, because I've got a few that are in the Q&A section, and then I'll come back to my list. From Srinivasa, it's a question for Pierre. What is the mechanism for charging the smartwatches? Are they charged while the offender is wearing it, or is it required to be taken off? If they're required to be taken off, how to ensure the offender wears them again when moving about?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah, the idea is that the devices work all the time, and just like an ankle bracelet. So the way, I don't know all devices, but in our case, and I think it's similar to some other systems, the way it works is that you have a charging cradle that you just kind of snap on the watch, and this is connected to a mobile battery via USB cable. So actually, you would just put something on the watch. With a cable, you put the other side of the cable, which is USB cable, in a mobile battery, like a commercial one, and then you can charge a watch. In our case, you need to charge it about an hour a day, and you enjoy mobility during that time. So you just can put it in your pocket. If you don't have the battery with you, you still have the option to put it in anything that is a USB powered device, like a computer, like in your car or things like that. So there are many options possible. It's relatively short charging time. You don't need to remove the watch, and you can enjoy mobile charging.
All right, great, thank you. Let me get to the next one here. Kelly asked, outside of agency-controlled monitoring devices, are there any programs to assist or provide users with obtaining hardware for mobile communication? Anybody have answers for that one?
I see that my video is lost, but you still have my audio?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, this is a challenge because I think what we're talking about here is how do you obtain phones for clients? if you're going to put mobile applications on their phone. These are their personal phones. No organization that I've seen so far has been able to provide phones for clients. I think that may change in the future when research shows that it's cost effective to do such. But there are some federal programs that can be applied to get a phone. I mean, we call them Obama phones. They're supplied in the same way that food stamps are supplied. The problem is it takes 3 to 6 months probably to go through this process. Navigate that. So it's a difficult thing. What you can do is point them to plans and phones that are cheap. There are phones that you can get for $150 and plans that are only $10 a month. So that's, but it is a challenge. You can't give them the mobile app unless they have a mobile device.
All right, thank you. That's good practical information. Speaking of which, though, I'm curious what motivates someone with the mobile app to not just that has tracking on it, not just to leave the device at home. I know my teenage daughter got smart enough to leave her device at home and sneak out at night. So what keeps a probationer or parolee from doing the same thing?
Well, for our app, which provides all sorts of functionality, as mentioned here, appointment reminders and secure messaging, etc. It can also provide a check-in and a GPS dot at the point of check-in. I mean, the reality is, we're not Big Brother, and unless somebody is ordered to, continuous monitoring, or it's a condition of supervision, the client in reality has to be willing to, leave their location on in order to check in. As a private company, we would just simply report to the department that your daughter, for example, Michelle, has turned off her location, I mean, in that case, if she left it at home, and that's the problem, and that's why a lot of that kind of technology, frankly, I think is for low risk offenders, which is what Crystal said. So, leaving the phone at home is definitely a way to circumvent detection, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's all grown up now, so we've grown past that. So, but
Michelle, I had the same concern, Michelle. I had the same concern, and that's why I installed ankle bracelets on all of my daughters. So I just
perfect, right? Yes.
I think we have to use different terms. I use the term hard tracking and soft tracking. Hard tracking is a GPS device that's detected if they take it off, and some of the stuff that Pierre showed on the watch I thought was really interesting, that would make that a hard tracking device. And then soft tracking is a device that they can leave at home or do whatever. So I kind of agree with Wes that we can't use the mobile devices that someone can leave at home to do tracking, except at particular check-in points. So if they go to an appointment, you can make sure they click a button when they get there, where they are, and they've agreed to that. Or when they do track all of their all of their movements with the phone that they can leave at home is a falsehood.
Thanks,
I will just add that I do feel that it's how the officer presents it. It can be presented as an incentive or a sanction. And so we've had very little issue, because if we say you don't have to come to the office because if you carry this and install this app, then we haven't had a whole lot of issue. And then if we say that you can avoid going to court for a probation violation if you have this app, then you tend to get a little.
Crystal, you cut off there at the end. You tend to get what?
Oh, I'm sorry. I said a little different result with more complete.
Okay, thank you. We
I'd
have
like to-
another,
I'd like to just piggyback on what Crystal said. I don't think these mobile apps for clients can be punitive. They need to offer positive things, or else they won't be used.
yes, I agree. If there weren't positive results, we all wouldn't carry one, right? Like, and so it has to work the same way. Wes, did you want to jump in?
I just said that is true.
There's been some overlapping solutions in your guys' slides. And so I'm wondering if those are solely competitors, or can you see them working together like in the same system?
Well, I personally believe that they don't need to compete with each other. I think that their use case is for each of them, depending on many things. So definitely one of the big thing is the level of risk posed by the participant to the community. So some need to be in jail, some need to have very strong devices that are not able to break, some can live with an app, and it really depends what they are in. Other factor that may play is the personal situation, if they have a family life, if they have a job, if they are more or less sensible to stigma or things like that. And we have heard of countries too that are now trying to implement a kind of multimodal electronic monitoring where people will start with a more secure device, or maybe with a little more stigma, but over time they would move to another solution and then to another solution, depending on how they behave, or if it's formally defined in which phase of the program they are in and things like that. So yeah, I believe you can do a lot of things depending on the risk, on the phase they are in. It can be also an incentive to say, like, no, it's a little bit cumbersome device, but you can go to something else and then to an app and then to nothing at all at the end. So no, I don't feel like it's really competing, or there's some kind of an overlap, but that you can use the best of each and adapt it to every single situation.
All right, thank you. I have a question here for Ben. How do you know the identity of a client that enrolls remotely for a mobile app?
So, you know, Steve mentioned several things earlier that we talked about, multi-factor authentication, biometrics, things of that nature, face recognition. I mean, we use these, you know, each and every day for our own authentication on our phones and things of that nature. So I think, you know, as technology has developed, we've gained more confidence in our ability to utilize these technologies to verify identities for things that we may not have thought of in the past. For example, you may have an application that allows for in-home drug testing, which we wouldn't have thought about, you know, 20 years ago. But today, you know, with a verification of identity and things of that nature, you know, it is possible that we could do something of that nature with a saliva sample or something of that nature. So I think as our technologies have advanced and we've gained, you know, confidence in those technologies, you know, we can utilize those multi-factor authentications and biometrics and things of that nature to verify that, you know, this is the person we're talking to, and this is, you know, and they're with their mobile app.
All right, anybody else want to jump in on that?
I think it's important to understand that these are problems that have already been solved. The banking industry, many industries have solved these problems. All we need to do is kind of piggyback on the ways that they've done this. So we don't have to create our own technology. All we have to do is use off-the-shelf stuff that's already been proven over the last 10 years.
That's an excellent point. Reframe that view, not reinvent the wheel. I have another question for West. What technology tools currently exist that support the EBP and CCP delivery and measurement so that we can get the right data?
Well, not to sound salesy, but Scram invested in developing a system called Nexus that was launched 2 years ago. And that is a decision support engine, much like what's used in medicine today or in sports, looking at analytics and making a recommendation to the officer. And so evidence-based practices, a lot of it comes down, not all of it, but a lot of it comes down to how does an officer respond to client behavior, whether it's through a positive reinforcement, it's a intermediate sanction, it's a intervention of some sort, treatment intervention or a cognitive behavioral intervention. And so, a decision support engine is what it sounds like. It's 1,000 if-then statements in a logic center that says if the client is high risk and high need and they've had this history of behavior over this period of time and they've had these responses, then this. That decision support engine that we built is based on 80 years of behavioral research, as well as an agency's, can be configured to the agency's policy. So I think that is revolutionary, frankly, to address the title of this session. It's really taking existing technology that's used in, at grocery stores, right? What do we buy from what price shelf? Do we respond to coupons? I mean, it's this technology of decision support is in our lives, and we're the first company to bring that to the market in community corrections. Also, we've also created a way to support structured office visits, to support epics, to support sticks, and to guide the officer not just through the decision, but actually through a structured office visit, and then to know what intervention to deploy at any given time. The most important thing about that is that's not necessarily the most important thing. The most important thing is that the officer documents in data what they actually did. So did they follow the recommendation of our system? And did that work? Did that shape the client's behavior? Or did they do something else? Did they choose something else, which they can do in our system? And did that work? And so following what works for whom is and having the analytics to support what works for whom when is I think really revolutionary, is going to move evidence-based practices to a new level.
All right, thanks, West. We're already at the top of the hour, so let me wrap this up first by telling you that what's coming up next. Just a second. Virtualizing appointments starts in 1 hour. So let me tell you about that. And also that it's a great time to jump into the exhibition hall and follow up. I know that one person asked what Steve was, who Steve worked for, and that was Marquis. There was a follow-up question for Pierre, but it came in anonymously, so I don't know how you follow up, but it was about when the battery gets low on your watch, what happens? How do you make somebody do that?
Yeah. You want to answer that now?
Yeah, give it a whirl.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sure. You can define a certain threshold at which you want the offender or the participant to be informed that he needs to charge a battery, to be instructed to charge a battery. If this threshold is reached, let's say it's 25%, then the watch will vibrate, will display a pictogram that will tell very clearly that the battery needs to be charged. At the same time, an alarm will be reported in the platform. And you can also have automated notification sent by SMS or by email to different people. And then from the moment the offender will charge the battery, the alarm will be cleared, and the watch will stop vibrating, and people will be informed that the alarm is over.
So we enforce it with annoyance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That means it's important. If the watch is out of battery, you can't control anything anyway. So that's crucial to make sure that it's charged at all time.
All right. And we're past time, so I really am going to wrap this up. I'm going to put the question out there that y'all can think about. It's from Simon Bonk, and it's regarding the decisions. How do you protect against pre-existing bias? I think it's a great question, and I'm going to let y'all think about that. So thanks everyone for joining us with our blended panel and presentation. And thanks everyone for jumping in with questions. Enjoy the rest of the conference today. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Michelle.
It's an honor.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.